Hello and welcome to Rotted Review of the Day, and today I am tackling the 1984 Joe Dante classic Christmas horror movie, Gremlins. This is one that I hold a special place in my heart to, not just because it's a part of my past, but also I have a very strong fondness for not family-friendly, but all ages, accessible horror films. It's not I'm not the target audience. I am all about, the violence and the gore and the extremities of situations. But at the same time, I think that having baby steps that allows for future horror fans is always a good thing. Something Wicked This Way Comes, Gremlins, The Gate, I thought was pretty good in a juvenile sort of way. The Hole, with the 2009 version, not the 2001 version, I thought had elements of it that felt very Gate-like. I don't advocate for children to watch horror films, but I do advocate for individuals always pushing their own boundaries, including the adolescents and people that are finding out who they are and growing and finding out where their lines are as far as what they can handle in terms of fun and scary and just general fiction. So if we have media that allows them to take those steps without going full bore into Exorcist territory, then I am all about it. And Gremlins is a great entry into this. This was one of the two movies, arguably two movies, that lent itself to the creation of the PG-13 rating, along with Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. Prior to that, there was just G, PG, and R, and further. But the Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom and Gremlins were both deemed not adult, not completely R-rated scary, but still not entirely PG. So they found a middle ground and later created the PG-13 rating inspired by those two. And I can see where they were coming from. This has a very childlike feel to it, a lot of fun, a lot of goofiness and levity, but at the same time, this does have to do with little tiny monsters terrorizing a town in a fairly vicious manner. And on that note, I also will be saying that although I am reviewing Gremlins on this channel, which, just for clarification, the Rotted Reviews channel is movie reviews strictly for horror films. And on that note, I am really on the fence about whether or not to ever do the sequel on this channel. That is way more of a comedy. That takes the comedic elements of Gremlins and turns that into an entire movie. Yes, it has little monsters terrorizing people, but it is so tongue-in-cheek. Fun, yes, but horror, I don't know about that. I will decide later on. If you want to weigh in on that, if you want me to do a review of Gremlins 2, please leave comments. I'll take a look and weigh that in my opinion. But in the meantime, let's get into more details by getting into the categories. As always, 4 different categories, each one worth up to 25 points, and for a total possible score of 100 points. And the plot, I gave a 23 out of 25. For those of you that are unfamiliar with this movie, those few of you out there, this follows the character of Billy as he is given a new pet that his father obtained in a small back alley store in Chinatown. And this new pet is called a Mogwai that is named Gizmo. And there are 3 main rules to follow in terms of caring for a Mogwai. You don't expose them to any kind of bright light, you don't get them wet, and you don't feed them after midnight, which is a frustratingly ambiguous instruction to say the least. But Billy, in the course of events, manages to break all 3, and thus are born many creatures from the Mogwai that are reptilian and nasty in nature, and multiply and tear up the town. That's pretty much the movie. Then it becomes an effort to stop them and preserve the town while also, keeping Gizmo safe because he's still, a cute little feller. I mean, I've never seen a horror movie that made me say, oh, so much. But this is definitely the one that does that. Gizmo is one of the most adorable creatures to ever grace the silver screen. And all told, I would say that everything about this movie, as far as the written plot goes, this had great pacing. Every moment in it felt very fluid, every plot aspect well developed, and in a way that felt very organic and didn't spoon feed information to the audience. It wasn't afraid to show, not tell. But at the same time, it just felt very natural, very, very fluid. This had a great pacing to it, and I really think that everything about the written plot was amazing. The intention, I gave a 22 out of 25. It went down just a little bit. Still fantastic. But this movie was a bit done by committee. Joe Dante it seems like he wanted to make a bit of a strictly horror film. Steven Spielberg wanted to keep it more family friendly, up until, including, keeping Gizmo as a good guy. Apparently, originally, he was supposed to have turned into the Gremlin, but Steven insisted, we need to keep Gizmo throughout. And there were a lot of elements to that the movie felt a bit collaborative in places, and you got the sense that it didn't know what side of the fence to walk on sometimes. You would have the Gremlins singing along to Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs in the movie theater in, a raucous attempt, and then you would have Phoebe Cates' character of Kate tell this really dark story about Santa Claus and why she hates Christmas. Which apparently Joe Dante really defended that getting that speech in there, and everybody wanted him to get rid of it. But he managed to keep it in, and I stand by it. I thought that was actually a really great story to have in there, and the way that they wink and nodded, made fun of it in the second film, I really loved too. But regardless, like I said, this did feel a bit collaborative. It didn't feel, sometimes it was comedy, sometimes it was horror, sometimes it was family friendly, sometimes it wasn't. And it's tough to nail down. If I talk about what the intention of the movie is, I have to ask myself, well, whose intention? So based on that, I would say that everybody got a good slice of the pie, and everybody achieved what they set out to. It just still did feel a bit collaborative, so 22 out of 25. The acting, I gave a 19 out of 25. Great performances all around. There were some that were a bit one-dimensional. But still, overall, I would say heartwarming and believable in a we're being told a story kind of way, not in a reality kind of way. It's believable on that level. And the technical, I gave a 25 out of 25. This was perfect on a technical level. The puppetry was incredible. This had, it doesn't have the benefit of CG. Everything that was done with practical effects, camera effects, and puppetry. And incredible is not a word that even does this justice. Phenomenal and perfect is really just the best way I can say it. But not only the puppetry and the special effects, but also everything about the other technical aspects of it. The editing was great. The soundtrack is so iconic. The theme of the Mogwai and the theme of the Gremlins is, if I hear it played today, immediately I'm taken back to that is an amazing score. That is Gremlins. That is iconic, and I love it. And it takes me right back to being a kid watching this movie again. So that gives us a total score of 89 out of 100 points. This is not my favorite Christmas horror film, but it is one of my favorite many ages accessible horror films, and I really do recommend it. If you have kids that you send to bed because you want to watch a horror film, something like that, and they want to be a part of that, this would be a great entry to get them acclimated, get them introduced to the world of horror, and baby step them through, see if they can handle it. If they get nightmares, then okay, maybe dial it back, try again in a year. But all told, this is a classic for a reason. It is a great movie. So that's about it for 1984's Gremlins. I really thank you for joining me here today. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. And remember, next time you want to watch a horror movie, first make sure that it's good and rotted.